Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second webinar in our summer series. We'll be discussing the dashboard today, but first I'd like to do a recap of our previous webinar. My name is Deb Oxnam. I'm a Client Program Manager here at EnergyPrint, and Adam Stevenson will be delivering the bulk of our webinar today. We'll be reviewing our first webinar where we talked about onboarding and how to start a building in EnergyPrint. And Adam will be reviewing tips to find and prioritize energy efficiency opportunities, tricks for finding the best building comparisons to make the business case for energy improvements, how to use the weather profile to understand how weather is impacting your building, and how to prove ROI for your building improvements with cost avoidance. I'd like to remind you that if you have any questions during the webinar, please use your question panel on your screen. And we'll collect those and review them at the end of the webinar during a Q&A session. Let's review what we talked about in our previous webinar. We did talk about the Energy Star changes that are coming up. They'll be changing their metrics on August 26th, and those changes will be effective the following business day. These will change historical scores as well, and we're expecting that each building is going to lower except for hotels. Keep in mind that, again, these will affect your historical scores, so if you would like to collect that information, please go to the Utility Dashboard, Energy Star tab, and download the information there. This will not impact certifications that you've already received. Again, that date is August 26, 2018, effective the following business day. We do expect to see scores to be lowered with these new metrics, and you can download your historical scores by going to the Utility Dashboard and going to the Energy Star tab to do so. If you have any questions about this, please reach out to your EnergyPrint representative and we'll walk you through the process. In our previous webinar, we told you how to add a building to EnergyPrint. To do so, we need 3 pieces of information to get started. That's building information. We'll provide you an onboarding worksheet where you can list all the information needed. We'll also need 1 recent bill copy for each utility account that you would like us to track. We'll also need signed authorization forms, which will give us permission to reach out to the utility companies and start collecting that data. We'll provide you with a template for a letter of authorization, and also we'll provide you the correct form from utility companies if they have specific requirements. We also offer an onboarding tracker tool within our dashboard. So if you have any questions about this, please reach out to us and we'll walk you through how to use it. But simply, it's a place where you can enter the building information, store all the documentation, upload it to EnergyPrint, and we'll take the ball from there. It also gives you the opportunity to see the onboarding process as we complete it. And again, if you have any questions on how to get permission to get the right to use the onboarding tracker, please let us know and we will set that up for you. And now I'd like to go ahead and hand it over to Adam to go over the tips and tricks of the Utility Dashboard.
Thanks, Deb. Once again, my name is Adam Stevenson, Client Relationship Manager here at EnergyPrint, and I will be presenting our top tips and tricks for the Utility Dashboard. The purpose of today's webinar is to arm you with the tools to take your utility data conversations to the next level. You will learn how to best focus your time and effort when analyzing your portfolio of buildings through tips and tricks on prioritization, how to get the most out of your building's utility data through comparisons, how to effectively utilize weather normalization by using a uniform process, how to prove project ROI through cost avoidance, and how to use the dashboard's note feature to tie it all together. Before we get started, I'd like to thank Home Furniture for allowing us to use their portfolio as an example for you all here today. Home Furniture is a leading furniture retailer servicing customers in the upper Midwestern states of Minnesota, South Dakota, North Dakota, Wisconsin, and Iowa. Home has been a partner of Energy since 2012, and we greatly appreciate their openness to let us share their story. Now, we all recognize that not every one of your buildings is going to change enough every month to warrant full analysis. And we also recognize that you only have so much time in your day. That's why sorting is important and crucial to your success, and why we're going to start with our first utility dashboard tip, efficiently finding and prioritizing buildings for analysis. By properly sorting and prioritizing your buildings, you'll be able to focus your time and effort on those with the most communicative insight. Oftentimes, the simplest trick is knowing where to start. By navigating to the Properties tab, you'll be able to see that the dashboard allows users to sort by a variety of metrics. Today, we will be using consumption percent change and consumption per square foot. You are also able to just as effectively sort by cost and carbon. When deciding to prioritize action on your portfolio, use the 80-20 rule. 80% of your analysis focus should be on 20% of your portfolio. In this case, we can sort to find the 3 largest negative consumption changes in the portfolio. Or alternatively, we can sort to find the 3 buildings that are exhibiting positive change. Once again, all I'm doing here is using the dashboard's click functionality to sort these buildings by their consumption percent change in order to find the top 20% of poor performers or the top 20% of top performers. To take this one step further and widen our list of potential building targets, we can target buildings with a change of 15% or greater. A change of 15% constitutes a major increase or decrease in a building and is a prime opportunity to have a conversation with your stakeholders around what may have caused this change. If it's a negative change, as highlighted by this grouping right here, help those stakeholders investigate the potential causes of that change and offer a solution to correct it. If it's a positive change, such as this grouping, make sure to take credit for it, particularly if it's a result of work you have done on the building. We'll talk about a couple of ways to communicate these talking points using weather normalization and cost avoidance shortly. Finally, leverage and take advantage of your monthly insights calls to help provide context for how your different building types are performing. For example, according to our database, and as evidenced by this insights report example, an average retail building consumes 50 kBTUs per square foot. Once again, that is evidenced using this insights report, drilling down to usage per square foot and comparing that to similar retail buildings. By sorting for consumption per square foot in this portfolio, we can easily determine which of these retail buildings falls above that contextual metric. We will then prioritize action on these buildings. Once again, I use the insights report to determine that retail buildings typically consume 50 kBTUs per square foot. I then navigated to the properties list, sorted by consumption per square foot, and was able to easily see which one of those buildings falls above that contextual metric. Now that we have narrowed down our list of potential analysis targets, let's dive into a specific building and its associated metrics. That leads us to our second series of tips, leveraging building comparisons. Leveraging building comparisons is important because it allows you to provide context to changes in your building's performance. Have your project improvements caused your buildings to perform better than its peers? Alternatively, are there opportunities for future savings when compared to these same peers? The first tip is a big one and simple to execute. Add notes, everyone. Notes are the most effective way to organize building changes and improvements and are the simplest way for you to communicate said changes and improvements to your key stakeholders and colleagues. In this example, the user has added notes for everything from the completion of a BAS upgrade, as seen right here, to VAV set point changes, to an LED lighting retrofit, to square footage changes, as seen with this new surgery suite addition. These notes allow this user to easily reference the complete history of operating changes and project improvements in this building. It is also important to point out that notes carry across most all dashboard visuals. Notes can be added on the property profile page by navigating to the Notes module in the bottom right-hand corner. From here, we will add a note, enter our note text, select our note type, of which we have a few options here, and we will select our event date, and upon saving this note, we will have the note saved as a yellow diamond within the property energy trend chart, as well as being listed in the Property Energy Journal. Once again, we'll navigate to the Notes module, add a note, type in the text of our note, select the note type, select an event for the note, of which then you will see the note added to the Property Energy Journal, as well as to the Property Energy Trend Line. Next, make sure to leverage peer-to-peer and advanced building comparisons to provide buildings performance with context. In this example, we are comparing two health and one without. Notice how well HVAC upgrade note allows us to visualize the impact of the HVAC upgrade. To achieve this type of comparison, simply navigate to the bottom left of the property profile page onto the property building list. From here, we will select one of this building's peer buildings. In this case, we are selecting another healthcare building from the portfolio. We will then add that building to the comparison module, update the graph, and see the result in the property energy trend chart. Once again, we'll navigate to the property list, select the peer building, add that building to the comparisons module, update the graph, and review the result. Advanced comparisons should also be used to provide buildings with even further context. In this example, we have added an aggregate comparison line in red that consists of 40 healthcare buildings with a square footage of over 400,000 square feet. Once again, using the user's note, we can easily determine that the HVAC upgrade not only improved that building's performance against its portfolio peer, but also against an aggregate of large healthcare buildings as a whole. Advanced comparisons can be achieved in a similar way to peer-to-peer comparisons, but with a few additional steps. So we're going to navigate to the same property building list as the previous example, but in this case, we're going to click on Advanced Search. From here, we can select our vertical market category, in this case, healthcare. We can set our square footage parameters. In this case, we are looking for healthcare buildings above 400,000 square feet. We also have the option to toggle a mileage parameter. From here, we will add that comparison to the comparison module, update the graph, and review the result. Once again, advanced comparisons, very similar to peer-to-peer comparisons, except instead of selecting the building from the list, you're using the advanced search functionality to select a vertical market category, square footage, and mileage parameters before adding the building to the comparison module, updating the graph, and then viewing the result. Advanced comparisons can also be used to discover opportunities for future savings. In this example, we are comparing an 84,000 square foot office building to an advanced aggregate of offices between 50,000 and 150,000 square feet that fall within 300 miles of our target property. We can see those parameters in the advanced comparison module down here. It is clear and easy to see that at no point has our office building consumed less than our advanced aggregate. This exemplifies a fantastic opportunity to begin a conversation with our stakeholders around what can be done to decrease overall energy consumption in this office building and get it to perform closer to what we would expect based on our advanced search. Now, your next question is probably, what is causing these changes in my building's consumption? Digging into weather-related insights is a great place to start. That's why our third series of tips will center around how to investigate the impact of weather on your building. Weather is oftentimes the most impactful variable when it comes to changes in building performance. That's why it's important to factor in changes in degree days, along with their impact on utility data when telling the story of a building. Utilizing the weather analysis down to 6 easy steps. First, assess the correlation. We need to determine whether or not weather is having a significant enough impact on the building for us to normalize for degree days. In this example, heating operations are strongly correlated with changes in degree days. We can visualize that phenomenon by looking at our correlation coefficient graph, as seen right here, or by viewing the degree day comparison chart to the right of it. This strong correlation is represented by changes in both consumption and degree days being in lockstep with each other. If we toggle to cooling, we can see that increases in degree days in green do not have corresponding changes in consumption and therefore exhibits a low correlation. Once again, I'm assessing my correlation using the correlation coefficient graph. We can easily see that heating is strongly correlated or heating consumption and degree days increase with each other, while cooling degree days and consumption do not share that relationship. Next, drill down to either heating, cooling, or both. In this example, once again, our strongest correlation comes from heating operations and heating degree days. So that's where our focus will remain. Since cooling operations are not strongly correlated with changes in degree days, we are unable to modify consumption metrics accordingly. A notification will alert you to this if you try to toggle to cooling in the weather-related property trend. Once again, we've decided to drill down to heating as it shares the strongest correlation. We'll view the heating metrics up top here. We will also be able to view weather-related trends as they relate to heating in this trend chart below. The third step is to identify when the weather normalized performance change began. Here, we can identify a couple of points of change. One gradual increase that began in February 2017, followed by a more drastic change beginning in October 2017. This leads us into our fourth step, taking a note to mark that point of change. You should see a pattern emerging here, highlighting the importance of using the dashboard's note feature. The 2 points of change we highlighted a short time ago each have their own notes to document those changes. One in February 2017, and one in October 2017. It's important to remind everyone that notes are added on the property profile page, as evidenced previously, and are not able to be added or modified in this or subsequent tabs. Next, we want to investigate the potential causes of this building's weather normalized consumption change and recommend solutions to the customer or stakeholder. Since changes in degree days cannot fully explain the changes we are viewing, we want to utilize the dashboard's non-weather normalized features to investigate potential causes. More importantly, however, we want to use this opportunity to have a conversation with your stakeholders around potential causes due to factors not explicitly documented within the dashboard. Finally, our last step is to prove the impact of weather using cost avoidance, which leads us into our last set of tips, using cost avoidance to prove return on investment. It goes without saying, but proving ROI is important because we want to take credit for the success of our projects. Oftentimes, this is the one dashboard feature that key stakeholders feel is absolutely essential. We all love to talk about consumption changes and nerd out about how weather may be impacting building performance, and your stakeholders appreciate that expertise, but they ultimately want to talk about dollars and cents. We want to take our conversations from the boiler room to the boardroom. Our first tip on this topic is that setting an effective baseline is key. We want cost avoidance baselines to end when projects have been completed. That way, we are comparing a building's performance resulting from that project to its performance prior to that project's completion. Our dollars and cents savings will reflect the success of that project's implementation. In this example here, we are using a 506,000 square foot hospital located in the Southeast that spends $1.4 million annually on energy. The user in this example has set their baseline to end when their HVAC upgrade was completed in February 2015. The result of that project is easy for the customer to see both visually and numerically. In this case, a conversation around saving the customer over $1.2 million over the course of 3 years is an engaging and an exciting one to have. That's a savings of over 30% per year over the course of those 3 years. For our next example, we're going to look at a 152,000 square foot office building located in the Midwest that is an annual energy spend of $266,000. Similar to the previous example, the user in this case has set their baseline to end as they wrapped up a complete control system install in December of 2014. Since that time, this building has experienced a savings of over $152,000. That's a savings figure of over 16% per year since the completion of that control system installation. The key action that this user took to make this apparent was properly setting the baseline to end as their project was completed. Our final tip is one that should sound familiar by now. Adding notes to document project completion is an important way to document the reason for the success of your project. In this first example, adding a note in February 2015 documenting the HVAC upgrade allowed both the contractor and their stakeholders to quickly acknowledge the reason for such a fantastic amount of energy savings. In the second example, documenting a project complete date of December 2014 made it extremely easy for everyone involved to note the reason for the improvement success. As additional projects are completed and improvements achieved, additional notes should be added to keep record of those successes. I know that was supposed to be our last tip, but I have a bonus tip for you. Every single one of your notes can be exported via our Property Energy Journal report. Simply navigate to the Reports tab in the upper right-hand corner of the dashboard and select the Property Energy Journal report. From there, you will be able to toggle between all of your notes or notes specific to a portfolio or individual building. This feature will allow you to quickly compile a story for each one of your portfolios or buildings. Once again, I'm navigating to the Reports tab in the upper right-hand corner. I'm able to select by individual portfolios or properties, and the result is a complete list and also completely exportable of every note I've added for every property or building in this portfolio. Now let me provide you with a brief recap of each one of our utility dashboard tips and tricks. Our first set of tips revolved around finding and prioritizing your buildings for analysis. Here, we learned that sorting is crucial to your success. Sorting can be made most effective in 3 ways. First, you should use the 80-20 rule to focus 80% of your attention on 20% of your portfolio. Second, you should find buildings that have exhibited a major change in cost or consumption. Something in the range of 15% will be most impactful. Third, leveraging your monthly insights presentations will allow you to find buildings whose cost to consumption per square foot metrics rise above industry averages. Our second set of tips involved adding notes to track building and project changes, as well as utilizing peer-to-peer and advanced comparisons to provide building performance with context. We learned that adding effective notes is the best way to organize building changes and improvements, and are the simplest way for you to communicate said changes and improvements to your stakeholders and colleagues. We all and allow you to not only visualize the impact of project improvements and building changes, but also discover opportunities for future savings. Our third set of tips focused on the impact of weather on your buildings. Here, we outlined a simple and effective process for breaking your analysis down to 6 easy steps. We start by assessing the correlation between degree days of consumption. We then drill down to either heating or cooling metrics, depending on the strength of that correlation. Next, we identify when changes in weather normalized consumption began. We then use our note functionality to try to mark that point of change so that it is easily communicated and documented. The fifth step is to investigate the potential causes of the building's weather normalized consumption change and recommend solutions to key stakeholders. The most important part of this step is to use this as an opportunity to have a conversation with those stakeholders. Finally, we want to use cost avoidance to prove the impact of weather. Our last set of tips use cost avoidance to prove ROI through setting effective baselines and consistent use of the notes feature. We want cost avoidance baselines to end when projects have been completed. That way, we are comparing a building's performance resulting from that project to its performance prior to that project's completion. The building's dollars and cents savings will then reflect the success of that project that has been implemented. Adding effective notes in this case becomes critical, as they will allow you to document the reason for the energy savings being experienced in the building. We also threw a bonus tip in there for you all around the Property Energy Journal report. Once again, all of your notes are totally viewable and completely exportable by simply navigating to the Report tab and generating the first report on the resulting list. That concludes my portion of today's webinar on utility dashboard tips and tricks. But before I go, I would like to remind you that our next webinar is scheduled for August 22nd. This upcoming webinar will round out our Summer Path to Success series and will give you a first-hand look at how your building professional peers are using EnergyPrint's custom reporting solution, Insights Architect, to visualize their building data beyond the utility dashboard. Be on the lookout for an email invite. We've also just sent a link to that invitation via the chat window if you'd like to register today. I'm now going to pass things back to Deb for some Q&A. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Adam. We do have a couple minutes to go over some questions that came in during the webinar. The first question is, how do I set a baseline?
Users cannot set their own baseline. If you would like your baseline set or reset, please reach out to your client representative here at EnergyPrint. It's a quick and easy process for us to set or reset that baseline. We just need to have you call us or send us an email beforehand.
Great. Who can add notes?
Anybody with a username can add notes. As long as you have a login to the dashboard, you are able to add a note, and your username will carry with that note across the entire dashboard.
Thank you. The next one, I'll take this one. How often should I be going to the dashboard? We recommend at minimum monthly. We do send out an email to you once we've updated with the latest bill information. We'd love to see you go in there more often as well. There's plenty of information to use to track projects, etc. But I think monthly minimum would be a great place to start. Our next question is, how do I get insights reports?
Insights reports are a result of insights reviews. So if you would like to schedule an insights review for your properties or portfolios, please reach out to your client representative here at EnergyPrint. We will set one of those up and deliver an insights report upon completion of that review.
Thank you. And lastly, what is a degree day?
A degree day is any day that a building needs to be heated or cooled above or below a balance point or a set point. We use 65 degrees here. That is considered industry standard. But once again, any day that needs to be heated or cooled above and below a balance or set point, of which we use 65 degrees here at EnergyPrint.
Thank you. Well, everyone, I'd like to remind you that if you have any questions regarding what you heard here today, to please reach out to us. We also do have a couple of videos on the dashboard in the videos tab that delves a little deeper into both cost avoidance as well as weather normalization. So we encourage you to take a look at those as well. And again, thanks a lot for joining us today, and we hope to see you on August 22nd at our next webinar. Thanks, everyone.